Okay, so the range is the measure of dispersion. Range equals the measure of dispersion. So it's just how far away the data, like how much data does it cover. So for QWERTY, the range, if you subtract 80 and 60, the range is 20, which is a pretty small range. Whereas Zaffron, her range was between 95 and 45, which is 50. So a large range. So we can talk about how far apart the ranges are, like how much data does it cover. But we've also got these quartiles. And quartiles are ranking the data, ranking the range. Actually, let's talk about that. Ranking the range into 4 equal parts. So for instance, let's just look at QWERTY's data. If it was 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, our range is from here to here. Our median is right here. We then want to chop it up. So we've chopped it into half, right? So we're talking about 4 equal parts. We need to chop it in half. We've got 2 equal parts. To get a total of 4, we need to chop it in half again, which means we need to chop it in half here and chop it in half here. So this is 25% of the data. This is 25% of the data, 25% of the data, and 25% of the data. Realize that what I mean by 25% of the data is the number of instances. So it's like your frequency, it's the number of people that are in that quarter. The number, so quartiles, it's the number of people that are in that quarter. Or the number of pencils that were this length, right? So if you wanted to measure length and you took a bunch of lengths of different pencils, then it's the number of instances that were in that length. So 25% is the number of pencils or number of people. It's a fourth of all of that. It's not necessarily talking about what the measurement is. So this first line right here that breaks it up into the first 25% is called quartile 1. The median is quartile 2. And then right here is quartile 3. Now it's a specific spot in the data. It does not mean that 60 is quartile 1. It means halfway between 60 and 65 is quartile 1. So that's going to be 62.5, which means that 25% of your data lies between 60 and 62.5. All right, let's practice it. The nice thing is that your calculator does it all for you. So let's go back to the calculator. We are going to plug all of this data in. We're talking about profits of top 10 companies in the world in US billions. I'm going to go to a blank guy here. It is not ordered. Oh, sorry, it is ordered. Never mind. It doesn't matter if it's ordered. Is what I was going to say, which still holds true. It can be in any order, and your calculator will organize the data. Okay. We don't need to have frequency because it's just one variable. So we're going to go statistics. We have our list in A. We have no frequency. Let's go ahead and do all of our data into B and calculate it out. So we want to find the value of the 3 quartiles. If you go down, you'll see Q1X, and that is your first quartile. And it gives you 224, which means at 224 is your first quartile. It doesn't mean, so that means that that these 3 are your first 25%. Median is your quartile 2. So quartile 2 is the median, which is 247.5. 247.5 is going to be somewhere in here. It's 0.5 because you got to the middle and you had two values, which were these guys. So it's halfway between those two. And then quarter 3 is 268, which is right here. So it's broken down your data into those 3 quartiles. Where does the 2017 profit of Apple fall in relation to these quartiles? So notice that Apple's profit is less than quartile 1, which means it's in the bottom 25% of the data. For whatever that means, it's not good for Apple for its profit to be in the bottom 25%. In terms of the top 10 of the world, or of the US, but context aside, it's in the bottom 25% of the data. All right, last thing, it wants us to find the interquartile range. The interquartile range is the range between quarter 1, so I'm going to label that IQR. I had a little dyslexic there in writing it, sorry. So your interquartile range is just the distance between quarter 1 and quarter 3. It's just where the bulk of your information lies. Below quarter 1 is going to be outliers, and above quarter 3 is going to be outliers. Potentially, it's the extremes of the situation. So we tend to really want to just focus on where the bulk of our information is, the more useful part of our information. And so then your interquartile range says, okay, the bulk of the information is this large, it has this much, which means instead of just looking at your range in general, like we did at the very top of this page, we're saying, okay, well, but really the bulk of your information lies between these two numbers. So going back up to Coelty, his entire range was 20, but his interquartile range was 10, which is pretty good in terms of a change away from the median. So the IQR is going to be quarter 3 minus quarter 1, which in this case is 268 minus 224, which is 44. Now that's not a fairly large number until you think about it, and it's actually in billions of dollars. So while 44 is not very large in relation to these numbers, it's still 44 billion, which is pretty large in terms of money. All right, that's it. Good job.